everyone.
I suppose they're not live, so we won't get any responses.
No, they can't hear you, so I'm going to start following the...
Right. Just start sharing the YouTube link.
I was going to say check the link, make sure it's running live.
Yeah, that's why I'm
Give me 2 minutes, guys. If you want 2 minutes, I'll be with you.
Start any minute now. Yeah, we're live, guys.
Let's go. Grabbing a drink. Mustafa, if you can hear us, jump in if you want.
Right, Nadir, we're live now. People are watching us on YouTube. Are you around?
Is this an open channel or is it just like for the people you've invited?
I think Nadir might have got disconnected.
Fine, Nadir got disconnected. I'll explain. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this very first episode of Wanasat Crypto, which translates to Crypto Chit Chat. So there's a lot of interest in the crypto space from where we're from Sudan, and we just wanted to have this YouTube channel as an attempt to discuss crypto related discussions, anything from what coins are people interested in, to strategies, to charts, to answering questions. So really an educational channel as well as shilling coins. So yeah, so Nadir's, it was his idea, so I'll let him start, introduce himself, and then we'll go through the list of participants this time and everyone can introduce themselves. All right, Nadir, over to you.
Okay, it wasn't my idea. So I'm going to speak in Arabic because this is the main goal of this YouTube video is to make it for people to understand in general everything. أنا نادر. طبعا الفكرة دي ما فكرتنا احنا، فكرة ناس تانيين كنا احنا بنديهم advices about crypto. كانوا قالوا لي يا أخي why don't you just try to make a podcast or even a YouTube video? Okay. فقلنا خلاص okay. The more we tell people about crypto, the more they're going to get into crypto and learn why cryptocurrency is the way forward for money management or for investment. What we're going to talk about today, basically, أول حاجة حنتكلم in general what is crypto. This is my own information. يعني أنا ما مشيت، I don't have a degree in cryptocurrency, and so حسام, but it's just from my own research. قرينا عن الكريبتو، شفنا الكريبتو experience، البول رن والكراش. طبعا في ناس كتار في اليوتيوب والتويتر they're a lot more knowledgeable than us. لكن at the end of the day احنا what we're trying to do is trying to be helpful للناس كلهم in general، لكن بشكل السودانيين. فحتكلم بس عن الكريبتو كرنسي والكوينز اللي احنا شايفينها هي حسب الريسيرش بتاعتنا ان هي ممكن تكون very good potential for good gains و very good potential كبروجكت، يعني something that you can use in future. يعني هسه حاليا انا I'm using a browser which is a cryptocurrency. يعني it's a blockchain thing. Brave.
Like the Brave browser.
Oh yeah, Brave browser. يعني quicker، اسرع، احسن، flexible, no ads، ببساطه واحسن من كروم ولا Internet Explorer. Anyway, ولا من Safari. The first thing we're going to talk about crypto. The second thing we're going to talk about what's been happening in the stock market recently over the last couple of days. We all know about the YOLO, GME, Wall Street bets. But we're going to talk about it briefly and see how is this important for the people to know more about crypto, right? And then finally, a brief summary on every coin that we feel like they are good. تقريبا احنا حنعاين لل top 10 coins. But this is exactly what we're going to talk about. So these are the three things that we're going to talk about. And then we're going to get to the questions and answers. So anyone got any question, سواء هنا ولا في اليوتيوب we're happy to answer them. اوكي انا شايف هنا كم عندنا الحين 6 عندنا 6 انفاق.
Yeah.
So انا نادر حسام بيجاي احمد هنا ناجي ودف او دف.
Right.
Oh, Daf.
Naji, Duffy, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'll let you go first, Naji.
So, guys, I'm Naji. I'm all actually new to crypto. I've been hearing about it for quite some time, for years. 3 years to be exact. I didn't join the hype until lately. Through Hussam and Nadir, they've been talking about it a lot, and a lot of things made sense. And I actually, been following their advice. Still a noob, as you'd call it, but made some gains, which is looking promising. So thank you, guys. It's a good start.
Duffy?
Nice, Naji. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Pretty much a similar story to Naji. Heard about crypto maybe about 3-4 years ago. Have a lot of friends that trade in crypto. I'm more based with stocks, or I feel like I know more about stocks than I would know about crypto. So it was, it's a transition for me to try and get into crypto. I'm really interested in this decentralized finance sort of environment, and I've just been hearing a lot of stuff about it, and I'm very curious. So I'm quite new to the scene as well. I'd say about a couple of months that I started, to start buying crypto and that sort of thing. So looking to learn some more, and get some experience and share some experience with everybody else as well. So
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm Ahmed, by the way. I've been trading crypto since 2017. Been aware of it prior to that and got some interesting stories to tell. But Sam invited me here and thought I'll come along and join, try to share the good and the bad sides of it, as well as discuss specific projects and specific coins and try to, help people get into this. Because as we were discussing just before we went live, I think it's important that a lot more people, particularly from Sudan and other places, really get involved with something like this, because I truly do believe as well that it's the future of money and currency and data transmission, really, essentially. So yeah, without going on for too long, I'll let open it up to everyone else to put the first thing on the agenda and we can discuss it.
Okay. Before that, then نتكلم في 2 on the background, في مصطفى وفي كامل. But both also new to this field, to cryptocurrency, and they're very keen to learn a lot about cryptocurrency. Okay. So let's start. Hisham, can you just give us a brief examples or brief introduction on cryptocurrency?
Right. So cryptocurrency was originally introduced by a anonymous person or group of people called Satoshi Nakamoto, but the whole idea was as an answer to the financial crash of 2008, where the hedge funds and banks were betting basically on your money, and people went to banks and they said, well, we don't have your money anymore. So the whole idea of Bitcoin was to say, you own your money, we cut the banks out, you become your own bank, and you own what money you have. No one can control who you can send it to, and no one can control when you can send it to someone. For us in Sudan, I think that's very important. If any of you had tried to send money to family abroad, you realize how difficult it is because of all the regulation. And some countries, the banks just don't like you sending money to, like Sudan. So Bitcoin was really brought in to help people who are unbanked, people like in Sudan who don't have bank accounts, who live cash day by day. It was helped to bring them into the financial system. And since then, it's exploded because people realize Bitcoin is just code on the internet and code can be programmed. So then they started exploring different cryptocurrencies, trying to answer different problems. And the beauty of the blockchain, which powers Bitcoin, is that you don't trust anyone. You took trust out the window. You don't have to go to a bank and pay them because you put your trust in them. You don't have to go, and when you buy your house, you don't have to go to a centralized government agency to say, look, I want to buy my house. Here's some money. I'm going to give you 10% of the house, basically, to prove that I own it. So it's democratizing trust, really.
Yeah.
Take trust out, and you don't trust anyone, and you trust everyone at the same time. And that's why I think it's revolutionary. That's me personally.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, really. I mean, in a deeper sense, Bitcoin solves the two key things when it comes to the world of finance. And I'm not going to go into detail with them here because they're extensive topics, but I suggest that you Google them and research them. The first thing that it solves is, with money specifically, is a double spend problem. And again, like I said, rather than go into it here because it's a long topic, I'll let you look it up in your own time. But the other thing that you want to look up as well is the Byzantium generals problem. And that's what the blockchain essentially solves. When Sam's talking about being a trustless system, it resolves that issue by allowing you to transmit money, data across many different fields, but have everything registered on every single part of the network, essentially, i.e. the blockchain. So if you look into the Byzantium generals problem and the riddle that it solves, I believe Bitcoin is the first real attempt that's actually managed to solve that, the Byzantium general problem. I mean, I don't know if you can play a YouTube video through it. It'd be interesting. You can send the link across at some point, and then you guys can look it up in your own time. But that's one of the things that attracted me to Bitcoin itself. Other than to make money, obviously, that's something I'm sure we can all agree on here. But I love the idea that it sort of kicks this whole fractional reserve banking out the window, and creates a deflationary asset that over time really can only go up in price. But it's not reached that stage yet where we've got the infrastructure and it's being used on a more common basis. I mean, you can go to places like Japan, for example, where Bitcoin is officially legal tender, and as a result, you can actually spend a lot of Bitcoin in everything from coffee shops to restaurants and bigger purchases. But I do see it becoming more and more renowned and more accepted over the global, community, really. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And the most recent announcement, Bitcoin on the biography of Elon Musk.
Yeah, I think that's why we saw the recent spike in the price.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Ahmed and Sam, anyone got any question?
There's no questions on YouTube yet.
Okay, but it's simply without worrying about what is blockchain, and you have to do your research. We will provide you with a lot of information, a lot of websites and links to help you. But essentially, what you want to do is, if I go to a shop and I want to buy a can of Coke, okay, we will provide you with a lot of information, a lot of websites.
Okay, so what's the best thing to start off now, right? Shall we talk about why we think the blockchain is the future, or do you want to start talking about different coins, what you're interested in, or do you want to talk about, do you want the newbies to come in and say, this is what we're looking at, or answer their questions? Anything, you can ask anything you want. How do you guys want to start this?
I mean, it'd be good if we got some questions, but if we haven't got any at the moment, it probably makes sense to try and maybe elaborate a little bit on the blockchain for people. To try and express. I mean, we've kind of touched on it already with our introductions, I suppose, but yeah, we could expand on it, I suppose.
I think a very, very important point, especially for the new people, Yani, for example, like myself, when I started reading about the crypto, it's wanted to know how it actually works. Yani, what's the aim? A lot of people you read about a lot of people getting scammed, especially the new people who are in crypto. They are the ones who are usually the people who get scammed. So I think it would be a very good point to put some advice there to what to trade on, what not to trade on, to pay attention and avoid the the pump and dumps. These things are very important, especially to the new people. Yani. I found it very helpful when Sam and Nader and also Abdullah, when they were talking about it, it was actually a very valuable lesson. So I think a lot of people would benefit from such a talk.
I mean, I'll start off by saying Bitcoin itself and the blockchain can't get hacked. It's been proven up to the last 12 years it's not really hackable, but it's your information that can typically get hacked, and mostly through what's known as social hacking. So it's a way of people trying to find your password through conversation, through maybe even rummaging through your stuff, but your Bitcoin itself cannot be hacked. Now, the other advice I give to new people, and through the range of people I've had calling me since Bitcoin's obviously reached 40 grand, I was saying to Sam, I have a lot of family friends and mom's friend. My mom rings me on a regular basis trying to put money into it. I'm telling her just slow down a little bit because we're in a tricky situation right now. Is primarily to invest and not to trade until you've built up some knowledge around trading. And you can take on online courses with trading. You can go on YouTube. There's also free content on there with regards to trading. But when it comes to the issue of hacking, generally speaking, don't send your Bitcoin to somebody that you don't know. That's the simple truth. I've sent Bitcoin to people I've known, but I've never sent Bitcoin to an organization yet, or someone claiming to be an organization. Obviously, if something like Amazon and PayPal and eBay start introducing Bitcoin payments, those are reliable channels that you can utilize. And I think when that time comes, well, it's sort of coming now, we're going to start to see the rise of smart contracts being built into the purchases, so that when you actually buy something and it's delivered and it's checked off on the system that's delivered, it automatically releases the Bitcoin across to the person you're purchasing someone from. But the simple things really, don't share your password. If you're not actively trading, don't keep your money on an exchange, because exchanges are centralized. So if an exchange decides to suddenly do what Robinhood did, for example, with people recently with the GameStop, it can prevent you from accessing your coins. Now, being in Bitcoin for a while, I have witnessed situations, not where they've halted trading, but where they've halted withdrawals of coins from the exchanges. This ranges from Binance, which is a very reputable company, to other small exchanges like MyBit, I think is the other one, or I'm trying to remember what the other one was called. But anyway, KuCoin, for example, in the past has had a few issues as well, things like that. Huobi's had issues like that. But they've never halted trading, but they have stopped you from withdrawing your money off their exchanges. So if you're not actively trading your coins, do not keep them on an exchange, because the exchange can get hacked. But like Mt. Gox happened in 2014, which was the original and only exchange for Bitcoin primarily. The blockchain itself can't be hacked, but your
people can be hacked.
Yeah, the exchange and your passwords and your access to your wallets, that can be hacked.
Yeah. I think the advice I always give new people is, until you learn about how to own a wallet, how to store your wallet, how to be safe with your funds, what are seed phrases, why you shouldn't share them, they're like your PIN code. It's okay to keep your funds in an exchange in the short term until you learn your security, until you learn how to handle it, because you are more at risk than an exchange. If you're new, you're far more at risk. People will be like, oh, I'm a support person, give me your seed phrases so I can help you get your funds or unlock your funds or send it to this person, and then it's gone. So it's very important to learn. You're cutting out the banks, and that's why it's cheaper, but at the same time you're taking a lot of responsibility.
You're becoming your own vault, so you need to treat yourself like a vault, like a bank vault, and be very secure. Because with private wallets, there's a number of ways to log into it. Like Sam mentioned with the seed phrases, typically when you set up a wallet, you'll print out a piece of paper that will have a QR code on it. It will have your public key and your private key. It's recommended when you come to print that piece of paper, turn your internet off and use Bluetooth or wire straight to your printer. So there's nothing logged onto any online systems. But yeah, simple things, just don't share your details, keep them safe. Nobody should be asking you for any of your private keys, none of your seed phrases, or anything like that. An exchange should not need to ask you that information at any point.
Yeah, they never will.
Yeah.
So we have a whole session about scammers. Okay.
We should actually. We should have a chat. We should have a different ways. I think that'd be really interesting.
I think it'd be very helpful, because a lot of examples here, for example, on Twitter, you see one of the YouTuber posts a tweet, for example, and the replies to them, same name, same picture saying, oh, click here, and then when
Give away.
you go to a link to say, well, we'll get you free Ethereum, but please send us half a Bitcoin
As a deposit. Yeah.
And that happens quite frequently in the Telegram groups. If you are in any Telegram groups for any project, okay, they copy the name of the admins, and then they send you some direct messages and like, oh, okay, hello, yes, yeah, you need to buy this coin now from this, and we'll give you an offer. So it does happen. So we're going to have a separate session on that, okay? But yeah, that's a very good question from Naji and an excellent answer from Ahmed about this. Okay. Amr,
Okay, we've got a question.
Is there another person? I can't see.
No, we've got a question on YouTube.
Oh,
on YouTube, the C is there. Okay.
I won't be reading that one out.
I was going to almost read it out, but I was like, nope.
Moving forward. Right, Nader, what do you want to move on to next?
So essentially, what I want to give you an example of what is how do you think about Bitcoin or currency in general? Okay, like I said, imagine that you go to a shop and you want to buy a can of Coke. Okay, so what you do is you give the money to the guy there in the cell, and he goes and get the can for you and pay you. So this guy is essentially a third party. Okay, and similarly the bank. So if you want to buy a car, you go to the dealer, and the dealer with the bank. So a lot of parties in the middle. Like what you want to try to do is basically with cryptocurrency, and particularly the smart contracts, blockchains such as Ethereum and Cardano. These are guys basically trying to avoid involving third party in the game, as if you, instead of going to the shop, you're going to a vending machine. Okay, basically, بسيطة جدا. You go to a vending machine, scan your card, choose B7 مثلا. It's a can of Coke, and it's automatically programmed. It will deliver the can of Coke to you directly. الفكرة بتاعت cryptocurrency. ما في third party يقول لك, oh, you can't take Coke. ما احنا بدنا نبيع لك الكوك at this stage, or like Robinhood would say, you can't buy GameStop. فما في فدي الحاجة, and this will take you to what's been happening in the last few days with the Wall Street bets. So دي معلوماتي عنها. This is my personal information. أنا ما أعرف أكيد كل واحد يكون يسمع معلومات, لكن the only information I have essentially في as you know, the stock market, Duff will be able to tell you, and again I'm also in the live video, you can on the chat, it can tell you exactly what's happening in the stock market. The stock market في ناس billionaires, they also are the whales, they control the market, okay, and this is these are the people who control when the stock is going down, when the stock is coming up, primarily by them, because what they do is just generate money on a daily basis. They generate just billions of dollars every day by shorting the market or longing the market. It goes against the retail investors like us, okay? Wall Street Bet group of people, we read it. What they did, basically, they tried to say, look, they found that the people are shorting GameStop, okay? And this is very bad for the company. So if you have a company like GameStop, it's like Game in the UK. They sell games, but because of COVID, they are all shut. والناس ما عندها شغل, ما شغالة من البيت, furlough. فالناس gradually they start losing their job. Okay, so the stock price goes down. But when they short the market, essentially what they do is they're betting that actually this stock is going to go down. They sign the contract. As soon as it goes to that price, we're going to buy it at the low price. Okay, and they just shorten it. And until the GameStop going down until they reach zero, and they announce bankruptcy, close all the shops. A lot of people lose their jobs. Okay, so this is what they do. They don't care about people. All they do is basically, let's short the market, game over. We're not going to deal with it. For these guys at the hedge fund, these are the whales, how they control it. Okay, فالجماعة في Reddit عملوا شنو؟ بكل بساطة قالوا يا أخي إحنا شفنا في high volume of shorting in GameStop. Okay, you can easily see this by paying to one of the chart website. You'll be able to see a volume. So what they said basically, a lot of volume shorting GameStop at this stage. Right? فقاموا قالوا يا اخي اوكي احنا كجروب اوف investor, we are the people, we're gonna buy the stock. Okay, and what happens when you buy a stock? Every time someone buys a stock, the stock price goes up and up and up and up and up. Okay, فلما the hedge funds and the whales found actually the actual GME stock is going up. Okay, so they started losing money. So instead of giving up and taking the money back and just accept the losses, they said, well, we're the whales. What we're going to do? They started shorting it again, putting more money to shorting it. At this stage, this went very viral when NAS began to study GameStop to support a retail investor, and obviously Elon Musk involved. Chamath also involved, so millionaires involved in الحاجة دي. فالstock ended up going up. Okay, so they ended up losing all the money. They got liquidated. By liquidated, I mean that they had to buy the stock at a higher price. Okay, so then they had to buy the stock at a higher price. They bought the stock at a higher price, and what happened to GameStop? When you buy at a high price with your billions, it goes high. So that caused GameStop to go high in the sky. So what happened then? لأنه الحكاية دي يا أخي, if it carries on, people are going to lose billions, and the stock market is going to crash. بكل بساطة. But that's why they got involved and they got in touch with Robinhood and 212 here in the UK, and they said, look, guys, you're going to have to stop people from buying GMEs and buying AMC. Okay, ليه؟ لأنه Robinhood and 212 are all centralized, controlled by the government. You just follow what the government tell them. That's it.
I read in one article that Citadel, one of the hedge funds that was shorting it, actually owns Robinhood.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Owns Robinhood. Okay.
It's not impossible to imagine the idea that they will ring them up and say to them, look, halt trading, or at least, actually they didn't halt trading. What they stopped people from buying the stock, they allowed them to sell it, which would bring the price down. Guys, ask a question. Does everyone understand what short selling and long selling is here, by the way?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it. No.
Because I just wanted to understand it because this is something that was going to start playing out in crypto. Because with crypto now, they also have futures, options, and margin trading, so you can get that sort of manipulation comes in. So when it comes to shorting a stock, what somebody's agreeing to do is they're agreeing to buy a stock from you at today's price, right? So they're not actually buying the stock, so they're borrowing it from an investor, okay? And what then happens, obviously, if they're expecting the price to go down, they're borrowing the stock. Say they're borrowing 5 stocks from person A, and by a month's time, they've got to return 5 stocks back to them plus an interest fee, which is like call it a management fee for borrowing those shares. So obviously, if they're expecting the price to go down, what they can do is then they can sell that stock immediately on the stock market at, say, a price of £100. When the stock falls to 50, they can then go back and buy essentially more stocks for the same amount of money and pocket the difference between the sell price and the new buy price. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's how the short squeeze occurred, because you had on one side these retail investors were pushing the price up by continually buying at higher prices between the buy and sell spread, and obviously as that price rose, their short positions were getting squeezed. That's where the word comes from. So for them to maintain their position and not get liquidated, they have to then short the stock even more. And then obviously what then happens is they keep pushing the price up, and as a result, they eventually have to pull out of their trades to avoid billions of losses, essentially, billions of pounds worth of losses.
Yeah, I always thought what's really interesting about what happened with GME is that it's legal to short over 100% of a stock.
Yeah.
That's someone saw that Melvin Capital, who are the hedge fund, shorted 130% of the stock. So they have to buy 130% back and return it to a broker. So they were like, we're just going to buy and not sell. And you have to return this stock. You have to return over 130% of the stock. And they were banking on people's greed because they got it down from $60 to 20 to 4. It was $4 in November. That's when people realized that they shorted 140% or 130 odd percent. So they were like, let's just make a run on their money. And they closed their position and lost like $3 billion. So 13, not 3, $13 billion. So yeah, so I think what's really interesting is a lot of people are saying, Robinhood were forced or manipulated to close the market. And I personally think that the way Robinhood works is they have to have an X amount already invested with the broker, and they realized with people buying, they didn't have enough to cover. And I think that might be the reason why they closed buying order, although it could be manipulation as well. It very well could be. But the fact that other people have not closed, or other brokers faced the similar issues, leads me to believe it was a regulation thing, because just manipulating the price down for a day doesn't seem like a very good strategy if they're just going to enable buying a day later. That's what I think. And I think that's another problem that crypto fixes. These guys, when Robinhood doesn't actually, when you say, give me $10 of this stock, or 10 stocks of this 10 shares of the stock that cost $10, they don't go out and they buy that. No, it's in their Excel somewhere. And it doesn't settle till 2 or 3 days later when they actually go out and buy that stock. Until then, the first 2 days is just, we've registered your order, but nothing actually happens. So it's a form of fractional reserve where you go and get money from the bank, and it's just digital, but nothing happens. In crypto, you buy something or you buy some crypto, it's yours. You can move it out in that instant to your own wallet. That doesn't happen with stocks. So all this slowness is why I think crypto is the future. It's taking something that when you transact and take days to settle to minutes. The slowest cryptocurrency is probably Bitcoin, and that takes 10 minutes, compared to me transferring across the world can take 5 or 6 days, 10 minutes to 5 or 6 days. I think, to bring the conversation back to crypto, I think blockchain is the future purely because it saves people money. And that's why I think adoption will happen. It saves people money. If your competitor starts accepting cryptocurrency, you can now accept payments from all over the world. You don't have to worry about credit fraud. You don't have to worry about the 3% of credit card charges. All these third parties, when you buy something, when you go to the shop and you buy, let me go to the shop and buy some milk, or buy some crisps or whatever. There's like 7 or 8 different third parties involved in that little transaction. And each one of them is doing a service, so they're taking a cut. And that cut is not paid for by the shop, it's paid for by you. You buy higher prices. Something that used to cost like £1 probably cost like £1.50 now because of the cuts. So I think crypto basically cuts all these middlemen out, which means prices will go down. And if your competitor are now offering prices that are much lower than you have no choice but to adapt. You have no choice but to accept it. And you look at things like Amazon, and Uber and WeWork. These companies are operating at a loss year on year. They're operating at a loss, and you ask yourself, why do people still invest in them when they're not at profit, and at the same time they have no plan to be on profit? Because they're buying market share. They're buying market share. They want to be the monopoly. They want to be like, you have nowhere else to buy because our competitors rely on profit. We don't. So we don't care about the profit. So I think that's why I think crypto will be a game changer in this space, because it just reduces costs. And that's why I'm fully invested in crypto, not because not because it's a good investment, that's a plus, but it's just because I think in 10 years time, and I told this to a lot of people, I think in 10 years time there's going to be so much adoption towards crypto. If you look at the internet, it was invented 1991, 1992. 10 years later, which is where we are with crypto, 10 years after its invention, we were using MIRC, Yahoo Messenger, MSN Messenger, High Five, MySpace, dial-up internet. But the Googles, the Facebooks, they weren't even invented yet. That was 10 years after the invention of the internet. Now we're 10 years after the invention of blockchain, and we're still nowhere near the level of adoption. That's why I'm excited to be part of this movement. That's why I think.
So Sam, I just have a question for you there. So just going back a little bit, how is crypto going to be relevant to our daily lives? And
so many applications. Excellent question. Let's look at what you do when you're buying electronics, right? Let's say you're buying a laptop or you're buying a TV. You'd go to Sony.com, you'd go to Amazon, you'd go to Philips, Samsung. Why are you going to these places? Because of trust. Like, you trust these guys will give you original parts. You trust that they're going to give you an original TV.
Yeah.
You don't trust the guy down the street to give you something that's not used or messed about inside. Now, the reason for that is the supply chain. You trust that people like Samsung are going to sort out their supply chain. I'm just going to buy at the end. But with crypto, there are cryptocurrencies that are tackling this supply chain problem. A cryptocurrency like VE Chain is tackling this supply chain problem, where you have full authority over where exactly this thing you bought has been throughout its life. You buy a laptop, you know where the screen was made, you know where the RAM was made, you know where the CPU was made, you know where everything was put together, you know when it arrived in the UK or arrived to where you're from, you know where it was sold, you know it's every single position. And the fact that the entire supply chain is known, and known very cheaply as well. In the current supply chain, Samsung needs to pay its suppliers, which are probably DHL or something, or FedEx. FedEx needs to pay whoever is making the product. If you look at the number of dependencies in a supply chain, it's ridiculous. It's mental. That's one application of blockchain. Another would be a smart contract. Let's say I live in Sudan, right? And I have a project that I'm really interested in. There are things like Kickstarter, where I come up with a project and I say I need $5 million, $10 million. Right? Kickstarter will say, this is someone, and this is crowdfunding, everyone can join in. And then you pay Kickstarter. Kickstarter is this trusted source. Now Kickstarter is taking a big cut, gives me the money. Now, according to Kickstarter, that was a successful raise. Their job's done. But I, as someone who took that money, I can run away. I can just not invest. It's a failed project. Smart contracts, basically, you can put into the contract itself. You codify and you say law, like, I'll give you 20% to start off with. And then you need to give me a demo or give me something to indicate, okay, you deserve the next stage of payment, which is 50% of the payment. And then give me another demo. And you can codify that. And then once it's in the blockchain, no one can change it. No one can say, look, I'm going to run away with this money. You don't have to trust anyone, because you're like, this money is coming back to me if the full amount is not raised, if certain conditions are not met, if the investor I'm investing in or the project I'm investing in doesn't deliver, I'm getting either all my money back or a portion of it back. I don't have to chase. These are two applications. I don't think the blockchain applies to everything in our lives, but certainly so many industries right now are just super, super slow. Finance is just one sector.
Yeah. Are there any aspects of the blockchain technology being implemented in, current life as we know it right now?
So I don't think there's a lot of adoption. Like, I think every smartphone is capable of being blockchain enabled. And if you look at how many people have smartphones versus how many people are using the blockchain in any of its aspects, it's just a tiny amount. And people are starting to use it just because it saves them money. And it has to grow given that. But I just don't think, I think we're at the very, very start of it. People are starting to adopt it. People are trying to get data from oracles, people who provide data outside a blockchain. So for example, that's me and Nadia are betting. I'm saying, you know, Man United are going to lose. He's saying Man United are going to win. We go to a third party we trust and we pay them, and they're the broker. Again, they take fees. Put it in a smart contract, and now an oracle will give you data from the outside telling you actually Man United won or Man United lost, and then it pays out. So I think there's so many aspects of our life that can be blockchain enabled, not everything, but so many. And we're just not doing it at the moment just because it's so new. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. The reason I asked was because recently I read an article about in New York, they want to implement like traffic fines using Bitcoin or using smart contracts. You know, so, you know, those are like small things that, you know, can slightly creep into our lives and we don't even realize it yet. So just
absolutely, because it's codified. That's it. It's law. Yeah. We have a question on YouTube, which is Bitcoin versus Ethereum. So I'm going to hand it over back to you, Nader, and you tell me, because I feel like I've been waffling on a bit. No, I want to give other people a chance to speak. Bitcoin versus Ethereum.
I think that's the usual for you, Hussam.
That is very true.
It's a useful thing, trust me. Okay, before I can get to this question, Bitcoin versus Ethereum. Okay, this is a very good question. I think before that, I want to go a little bit back and just to echo what Hussam said. Essentially, the cryptocurrency and the people are investing in cryptocurrency. To be honest with you, they are like investing in the stock market. Okay. Let me give you an example. Okay, I can go to Tesla and buy a Tesla online and buy a Tesla. So I can just be a user of Tesla. However, if I want to make money, then I'll be buying Tesla stocks. Okay. فالحاجة دي اللي بتحصل إنه people would know about Tesla. Okay. يعني Tesla would be all over the world just after people the stock is out. يعني مثلا أنا سمعت بها تسلا ما سمعت بها في الستوك ماركت. اوكي، سمعت بها في النيوز مثلا. اوكي، electric cars وكذا. طيب، ف this is the majority of people will hear about the product first, and if they like the product, they go and buy the car, صح? Or buy the PlayStation 5 or whatever. And it's only limited percentage of people will go and look for new IDs, penny stocks, الحاجة الصغيرة دي. Okay, and then if I know it's a very interesting idea, let's buy this stock. Okay, فحاليا cryptocurrency is at the same level as penny stocks. Okay, the problem with cryptocurrency لأنه التكنولوجي بتاعتها it's so hard to understand. Okay, and I find it sometimes really hard to understand. Okay, the cryptocurrency اشتهر as a money generating asset. يعني. It's all about, okay, if I want to make money, I go to crypto because look, Dogecoin went straight 800% gain in a day. تمام؟ This is what brings people, oh gosh, خلينا نخش نشتري الحاجات دي and make the gain and leave. However, once the people start to understand the technology and how to be able to use it on a day-to-day life, then the price would even quadruple and go even higher. So there are so many clever projects happening at this stage. Okay, nobody knows about it. تمام؟ في واحدة من البروجكت اسمها سمارت كي. سمعت عن السمارت كي؟
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a very interesting idea. تمام؟ يعني مثلا paramedics nowadays, when they come to a gated door, they can't open it. If someone's sick, call 999. in a compound or a place that it's gated, they won't be able to enter it. ولا العمارة ما حيقدروا يخشوا. تمام؟ فالsmart key, for example, if they are adopting an ambulance, adopting the technology of the smart key, and even the gates will automatically open for them as an ambulance, as a key worker. Usually the gate automatically will open. Activate the key. It's a smart key. الحاجة دي ما في. أنت حاسس ليه ضربت الأمبولانس وأنت قاعد في عمارة. It's يعني you have to make sure the gates is open. Okay. Now let's go to the question about Bitcoin versus Ethereum. طيب, and these are the two best. يعني this the يسموهم شنو? The king and queen of cryptocurrency. Again, we're all here for money, okay? But also we can use the technology. And I use that. Like I said, I'm using Brave as my web browser. I'm enjoying it. يعني ما في ads, ما في زول بخش لي. Even في YouTube ما في ads بتجيني لقدام, which is good. لكن Bitcoin versus Ethereum. People are using Bitcoin and Ethereum, mainly Bitcoin, to basically save their money in. Okay, and the reason for that, they found the price of Bitcoin is gradually getting higher and higher. Okay, when you compare it to the dollars essentially بيحصل شنو؟ هسه جات ظهرت الستيمولس مع الكوفيد 19, that's all get funded, and then I'll give an example here in the UK what's happening. In half of the population being furloughed, the other half being having trouble going to work every day. A lot of benefits and funds from the government to support the people during this pandemic. Okay, يعني أنا سألت نفسي السؤال ده, where did you get the money? يعني all of a sudden نتكلم إنه يا أخي any business owner will get £50,000 and okay, we're going to pay you this universal credit. يعني, and then all of a sudden where did they get the money from? And the answer to this is just money printing. Okay, and the consequence of money printing we will find out in about a year, not now, looking a year, 2 years from now, you'll find actually inflation happens. So instead of having a can of Coke for £1, you'll have a can of Coke for £2. You can do that easily. Inflation goes up. خلاص. الحاجة دي بتحصل مع بيتكوين. Okay, لأنه they cannot print Bitcoin. People think about they cannot print Bitcoin, but this is going to be like my digital gold. يعني الناس تشتري الذهب ده so to save their money. Okay, when the stock market is down, the gold price will go up. Okay, and the reason for that is when people get this panic attack or anxiety about the stock market losing money, they cash out, put it in the gold. Okay, that's what they do. فحاليا Bitcoin is the digital gold. Okay, you save money. Okay, Ethereum got a better technology than Bitcoin. لأن it deals with the smart contract. It's the first to deal with the smart contract. It's now going to be another asset generating product, and where they save the money and invest it. لأنه حاليا Ethereum around $1,400. تمام؟ فالناس بيقولوا okay, I don't really need to buy Ethereum to do some exchanges. I'm not going to use Ethereum at this stage, at this particular stage. Okay, I'd say maybe 95% of people who are having Ethereum في الوالد بتاعتهم, they're not going to use it to buy coins through the DeFi or through Uniswap. They're only just going to keep it, save it, and that's it. تمام? بالنسبة للpotential, I'm not really in a position to give a price prediction. Like we all know that Bitcoin is now around 37,000, and people say there will be more to that. It can reach up to $150,000 in this year. Okay, Ethereum, the price بتاعتها slightly cheaper, cheaper than £36,000. You can buy it for $1,400, and then the potential of it to go 20x. And I'd say you can't get 20x now from Bitcoin. 20x for Bitcoin. I don't expect this to happen in this bull run. However, with Ethereum, you can expect 20x easily because it didn't explode yet. Both Bitcoin, as we know, institutional money starting to buy in. And I see a recent tweet. I've seen it on the internet. Recent tweet. Tesla are buying Bitcoin. Okay. Well, big institution money goes into Bitcoin, and this is good because actually they found it's better to put their money into Bitcoin rather than just leave it in the dollar, because the value of the dollar will drop with time. And when there will be no Bitcoin, the institutional money will go toward Ethereum. This is the general idea about Bitcoin and Ethereum. What to buy, it really depends on what you think you want to achieve from your investment. Because I think all of us here to invest in cryptocurrency, to know about the technology is good, but I think primarily here we're buying the cryptocurrency here to make money. That's true. I think it's fair enough, and I personally feel, or actually from my experience, the gain I made from the cryptocurrency is way better from the stock. In fact, in 2017, when I made a lot of money buying Bitcoin and selling Bitcoin, okay, I lost almost half of it, if not all of it, on the stock market. Okay, so and this is it, because the stock market is very manipulated and a lot of things, but the actual cryptocurrency is a way that we make money. So what I suggest doing, and that's doing at this stage, is you invest and read about the project, and then you think about, oh, this project is going to be good, and then you'll be able to use it. And at the moment, I'm using Crypto.com. Crypto.com is a fantastic app, and I think CRO, the coin, is very underrated. And this is basically a challenging bit, but you can use it as your credit card. So you can buy stuff using Crypto.com cards. So some credit cards do. So a lot of utility happening here for Bitcoin. And I think, Salah, when people make a lot of money on crypto, they're not going to go back to dollars. They're never going to go back to dollars. And I'm not talking about this time. I'm talking about 5, 6 years, maybe 10 years from now. Now, at this stage, there are billions of dollars gathered in DeFi network. Okay, and the reason for that, they're making more gains. يعني الليلة لو قلنا عندك قروش خاتيها في البنك هنا, the saving account تديني 0.1% interest. اوكي, خلينا نتكلم عن interest والinterest حرام ولا حلال, لكن if أنا واحد I don't care about the interest ولا حاجة دي, I do care. لكن if I put my money into a saving account, it would be 0.1%, okay, per year. If I want to take the money and give it to IG or give it to Vanguard or Nasdaq, they're going to tell me, look, we're going to invest your money and we're going to give you about 10%. Fair enough. However, when you put it on crypto, they're sometimes offering up to 70%. So 50%, 28% per year. So money generating is higher in the cryptocurrency. So they're going to keep the money into the cryptocurrency. And then you don't have to put it in crypto because the crypto is up and down, but you can put it in USD in stable coins. Okay, Ahmed, you were going to say something here.
No, I was more or less agreeing with you in a sense. I mean, both you and Sam. I mean, especially when it comes to this question of Bitcoin or Ethereum or Bitcoin or any other coin for that matter, you have to recognize something that's really important. Blockchain and Bitcoin are actually separate things. Bitcoin is the first application of the blockchain, and it's obviously used as money. So for me, Bitcoin has got that brand in that sense that it's been around the longest. It's not been hacked. So for anybody looking to get in and trying to make that choice, of course, not trying to give financial advice here, but I would always tend more towards Bitcoin versus any other coin for that matter. But Ethereum, certainly from a development point of view, has come a longer way in the sense that it's a faster coin to transmit. And you've got the smart contracts and decentralized apps being built onto it. Most of the other altcoins are ERC20 coins, which are built on the Ethereum network anyway. So it is catching up. But for me, I would always see Bitcoin as like the gold standard for all other cryptocurrencies, and I think that will remain the case, going well into the future. And again, the deflation asset, which Nader touched on, I think for me personally, that's probably the most interesting and luring idea of Bitcoin, because I think in the UK the average inflation rate for the last 50 years has been about 7% or something like that. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's a deflationary asset. So the way that our economy works, whether people like to believe this or not, it actually punishes savers. But in a Bitcoin-based economy, it would actually reward you to save. So you don't have to delve into investing into companies and things that you don't know much about. You can just save your money, and it will actually grow over time in terms of what it buys you. Because that's the real value of money, it's purchasing power. It's not how many numbers is actually written on the screen. Because like you were saying with the Coca-Cola example, 10 years ago, you could have bought a can of Coke for 25 pence. But today you're looking at like £1.50 to buy a can of Coke. So if you're earning roughly the same amount of money over those 10 years, you can buy 4 less cans of Coke than you could in the past. And that for me is one of the key aspects, and also why I would pick Bitcoin, because it has that limited 21 million supply compared to Ethereum, which has a much larger circulating supply. But in terms of percentage gains, I do believe, like you were saying, Ethereum hasn't had its major explosion like Bitcoin's had. Bitcoin's got a few years ahead of it. So in terms of investing and making percentage gains, you probably do stand to make a bit more in terms of Ethereum, in terms of percentage gains. But I think Bitcoin will reach there first, and then you can always then readjust your portfolio and buy back into Ethereum once Bitcoin levels down to a steady price. But generally speaking, you've seen it more recently than ever. Bitcoin tends to jump first, and everything else follows a while afterwards. So I'm always more leaning towards having a larger part of my portfolio in Bitcoin versus anything else.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, and I think it's reasonable to go like this. But also, we will be talking about this. So Bitcoin can go up 5%, 10%, 20%. Altcoins, Dogecoin, Doji, 100%, 800% in a day. You can tell. Whoever going to invest, you're going to have to choose where to invest. Like, we'll talk about Dogecoin in a minute, and if you have enough time.
We got a really good question here on the chat.
Just trying to
cut you off. So it says, so in terms of investment into blockchain, should one focus on coins that will elevate the crypto and blockchain growth? They would love to hear your opinions on blockchain growth coins. So I can start off with that one if you guys want.
Sure, go ahead.
So the way I always invest, right? So I can tell you what I've done versus what people recommend. I tend to stay very far away from any influencers on YouTube that say this coin is the future, just because I cannot guarantee that the coin themselves are not paying this person on YouTube to market this particular coin. Some do, some don't. I don't know. So I always look at coins that give value, or I believe in projects that I think I would use. You can apply this logic to any sort of investment rather than just crypto. Do you think this thing has value? But it does mean you have to go in and look at what the project is, what they're doing, and that's basically fundamental analysis. Others, they would look at charts. They will look at, let me look at the charts, let me look at how it's gained or how much it's lost over the past week. And they would basically do a decision or make a decision based on what the chart tells them, based on history.
At a point there, when people are doing that, what you're doing is you're making a trade. You're not investing in the blockchain. You're just making a trade as if you would do it on the stock market. You need to recognize that difference there when you're playing that game versus investing.
Exactly. So that's it. I think we've got one more person joining in, so I'm just going to let them in. That's Sam. Hey, can you hear us?
How you guys doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. So because I come from a data background, I am fully invested in data related projects, because I think data is the future. Data is oil, basically. Everything is powering everything requires data. Everyone wants to get into data. So I'm looking at data-related projects. So you look at an example of Chainlink. Chainlink was a project that was maybe 10 cents, if not less, and then went up to $25. So that's over 100, over 100%. It's like 1,000%, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. 1 cent to $1 is 100%, and then times 20. So 100 times 20, which is 20,000%. Or 20,000x, really, not 20,000%.
25,000%. Again, I told them.
That's 200. No, is it 20? I can't remember the percentage.
Yeah,
20,000x.
Over 200 and like 2,500x, because it was one, like what you said, it was like 1 cent, and then.
Yeah, so 100 times 20. So yeah, it's 20,000, 20,000% or 2,000x, 20,000x. So that to me is a project I would invest in, and I'm looking at a project at the moment called Kylin, which is kind of a data oracle which provides off-chain data. So the difference between off-chain and on-chain data is in the smart contracts, what we were discussing, we require data from outside to tell us, did Man United win or lose? That means we're getting off-chain data into on-chain, into the blockchain. The opposite of that is a project called the Graph token, which went live, I think, in August or September last year. That's getting on-chain data outside, so people who want to do analytics on the blockchain. That, to me, are projects that I'm really, really interested in. But really, it's about fundamental analysis, which is really looking into the project and understanding, does it give value? Does it add value? And an answer to Duff, he asked me a while ago about applications. I'm not going to go on about it again, but things like DeFi, that's basically saying we don't need to rely on banks and insurance, the old guard who have always been dominating that industry. I want to insure my house. I want to buy a house. I have to go to a bank who lends me like, I don't know how many house prices are now, like 600,000 in London or something, right? I have to go to this one person. But now it's distributed. Everyone can hop in with like £1,000, and you've got, what, 10,000 people who give you that money. You've already got 100 grand. You've got 10,000 people giving you 1,000. You've got the same 100 grand. So millions of people giving you that money, you're more likely to get a much, much lower percentage, because it's not just one person giving you that money. And that's DeFi. That's basically saying, let's look at the old guard industries and how can we get crypto to supply those services for a much, much cheaper price. I can start saying, look, I've got a £6 million house, right? And I'm not doing anything with it. It's locked capital. How can I use it? I'm going to tokenize every bit of the house, so I can sell parts of the house.
Yeah.
So I can get 20%. Instead of going to the bank and say I want to remortgage my house, and they're going to evaluate my house to be this much. You're going to tokenize parts of the house, and then you get a cash injection of capital. And now you've made something that was very, very illiquid, liquid. So it gives you a cash injection to use that cash to do something else. So I think we're going to see a lot of that going forward. And I hope that answers your question about, blockchain growth. It's more about adoption growth.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'll just add to that, especially if you're new to this, is just invest that time to fully understand what the blockchain is, so that you can go forward into looking at projects and seeing if that blockchain has a real world value. Because again, another thing that people don't talk about is you've got the Bitcoin as the example and other cryptos as a public blockchain, but you can also get a private blockchain that's not necessarily available to me and you as such. And ways to invest in that, which would be a very different route. It wouldn't be on an open market. But with going back to crypto and particularly saying where you say elevate crypto and blockchain growth. Looking at Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin actually is that first application of money, digital gold, however you want to look at it, onto the blockchain. Like you mentioned, Link and other projects. Then you have to look at the blockchain outside of money itself, because there's a lot of coins out there that are just trying to be another version of Bitcoin, because Ethereum could have come out and said, okay, to challenge Bitcoin, let's make our supply 15 million or 10 million coins, and Ethereum would be a higher price today than Bitcoin. They've come at it from a totally different point of view, where they want their blockchain to be a bit more adaptable and applicable to real-world uses, like decentralized apps, like smart contracts. But also bear in mind as well, again, that Bitcoin can apply these things into it down the line. It just depends on the developer community what they want to take it down.
But just to add to that as well, I think a lot of it is just game theory. So like, as you said, with all these alternative coins,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of them are just, as Nadir pointed out earlier, just trash, this dog coin or whatever.
Yeah, it
And
was
I
a joke.
agree with both of
That
you
was a
saying
joke.
that it is indeed like the kingpin. But for me personally, the way I would look at it is that, man, if you look at it from a game theory perspective, Bitcoin, to own a Bitcoin is expensive, to own Ethereum is expensive. So people may think to themselves, okay, why don't I look at the actual blockchain miners who are paid in Bitcoin, who protect the Bitcoin itself via the blockchain, and also extract the Bitcoin like via their mining services. And that also gives you that sense of volatility and price swing, but also as well, like once you've established a position, it allows you to also like get like a sense of like, for example, get that similar correlation, not direct correlation, but I would say maybe like sort of a lagging correlation, because I've noticed like with these like blockchain miners, let's say if Bitcoin has a run, the miners will maybe lag by a day or two. Or in the case you'll find a lot of these miners, maybe like a lot of them, they also do maybe the alternative coin blockchain. So there's other like companies that may do that to their cloud servicing in their blockchain. You can also get exposure to that. They can also give that exposure in terms of like maybe giving you lesser volatility of the price swings within the cryptocurrencies. But I'd say as well, like I agree with everything you guys were saying earlier. But for me, the way I would approach it, I mean, my background's different to yourself, Ahmed and Sam. Mine is first. I have a economics background, so maybe I'd look at it from a macroeconomic perspective, just like what Nadir was stressing earlier about the idea of what's happening now with GameStop and what's happening with the stimulus.
Yeah,
is that I think now you have like the whales are coming in and trying to slow down the growth of like Bitcoin and Ether and all of these cryptos. But what they're doing now is of course, when it rises, they can sell and not be affected as much. But you're starting to see a lot more adoption, and a lot more like actively managed in terms of like adding more like asset classes. So now you're seeing the most switched on asset managers like your BlackRocks and what have you are starting to add Bitcoin to their balance sheets, and are starting to like, or for example, Square, who just converted all their cash to Bitcoin, or PayPal now, who have allowed this to be adopted. And you're starting to see now that they're also able to allow for the Bitcoin to be an actual inflationary asset hedge, and also a protection against downside swings. So if you notice today what happened in the market, Nadir, everyone was screaming for blood and was scared and panicked. Correct? The S&P and Dow were down about 3%, which is detrimental. However, if you look at it from the perspective, Bitcoin kind of like climbed up a little bit. And the funny thing was, you're starting to see now, like in the economy, where it sort of is an us and them, because as Sam was stressing earlier from his perspective in terms of like the data and how it's all advancing in the blockchain, it's starting to cause that that democratization of wealth. And of course, even where I work, even like my like institutions I work with or work within, they're still very, very skeptical of this idea of cryptocurrency. كيف الكلام ده وما في fundamentals وده شنو ده كلام فارغ. When you go tell your parents or your family that you want to
exactly.
Same kind of response. Exactly. So like even looking at the miners from last year, like they were all like beaten up at the time, $1, $2. They've all highs of nearly $29-$30.
Yeah.
And it shows you like this movement is gonna happen, and it's gonna be forced whether they like it or not. And I think now you're starting to see like people now want in, and people now want to be able to have that exposure to that move. Because as Nader says, if I'm getting 0.1% on my savings, that savings, I have to give it away, haram. And I'm 0.1% down.
Yeah.
But I think now it's a case of, I agree in terms of fundamentals, but I think now as well you're starting to see, like, even from like my perspective, what I'm starting to see now in terms of like the movements in the crypto space or even other asset classes is, what's the next big thing? What's the next change? So you're starting to see, like powerhouses like ARK Invest build funds just for that. We're starting to see now the digitization of fintech adoption. The idea of the blockchain can settle trades instead of me buying a stock and waiting 2 days, 20 minutes by the blockchain. Or sorry, go on.
I'm agreeing with you. It's exactly it. They have to adopt the dinosaurs. They've got to adopt.
But now you're starting to see now. So, for example, like, let's say I'll ask, you guys with medical backgrounds, even like my sister was a dentist, I'll be like, so do you guys use 3D printing? How does that apply and stuff? You're starting to see now, like, hang on, 3D printing is the proper thing. You're starting to see those rally. Genomics, you talk to people who work in that space, and the few people in that. You're starting to see like the groundbreaking thing, like that's the next thing, and that's starting to take off. So you're starting to see a lot of game theory and a lot of shift in the sense of, like, for example, now with lithium miners, you're starting to see now people are shifting towards the lithium miners because they realize there's an EV boom. I mean, funny enough, subhanAllah, I read, I had a paper from Jeffries, and like I read it, and it was talking about, like before COVID kicked in and stuff, how Chinese EV market, the potential upside and all that stuff. I didn't pay too much attention to it. Then, of course, COVID-19 happened, and this plan exacerbated, and it became full in place. But you're starting to see now, like, people are trying to, as I said to you guys in the group, mind map things now. So you are starting to look at the fact of what links to what to that outcome. Okay, so if I'm talking about my cryptos, what platforms will give me the access, the ability to cryptos? Square, PayPal, MicroStrategy, Riot Blockchain, Marathon Pattern Group, ZenY Blockchain, all these many different things. And you're starting to see, like, a lot of it is game theory. So people will see something's very overpriced and think, oh, this is expensive. It's too much. Or we'll get shit there, or the cheaper things. That's why you're seeing Dogecoin go up 800% because people think, oh, it's only 3 cents. So you're starting to see like that happen as well. But you need to, like, also, like you said, like, educate the people. They can realize a lot of this is crap.
Yeah.
Buy only the real, like, kingpins and just hold on to the two main ones, because from a macroeconomic perspective, the way things are going with the stimulus and the economy going down the toilet, you have to have Bitcoin and Ethereum. Yeah, and at least in your thing. Chainlink is good. That could be secure. I don't know about it much, and I think you guys would be better equipped to tell me about that. Like, from what I can see, it seems relatively secure, but then again, I thought about XRP and look what happened.
Yeah.
So I think we're starting to see now as well, like, there is a bit of a conspiracy to target these altcoins. And the question is now, it's the survival of the fittest.
It's not, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you in. I just want to with the game theory issue, and this is something I've actually had lots of conversation with friends about this, and how do we get to a point where we switch across to a Bitcoin-based economy where, currencies are no longer really owned by governments, but rather projects that have, actual utility. And just to touch on the Dogecoin before I go on to the main point itself, Dogecoin is a perfect example of that. It's a totally nonsense coin. It was created as a joke, and look at it. It survived because it has a community of people that actually back it and use it. Whether they're transacting amongst themselves or whether they're trading it. And another thing as well with Dogecoin, it allows you to give you further divisibility. Now imagine one day where a single Satoshi is worth $1. Now, certain parts of the world, that $1 might not be divisible enough to buy a coffee. You might then exchange it to a Dogecoin, so you can divide, that dollar down to a smaller unit, and then use that to pay for that cup of coffee, because in that country, a cup of coffee is 2 pence, for example, or 2 cents. So that's a potential use for Dogecoin. But the reason it's done so well and it survives and is still there amongst the most recognizable coins is because it has a good community behind it. Whether it started off as a joke or not, the bottom line is there are people that are actually still buying and holding and using it. But going back to the game theory thing, and over the conversation I had with friends, I hate to admit this, but we're going to have a hybrid moment, just kind of like the hybrid car itself, where really we should just be going across to electric. But right now, we primarily from Toyota, you've got your petrol and hybrid electric car built into one. There is going to be a situation, I think, where we're going to have banks or Bitcoin banks, custodial services for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because generations like my parents, as much as I've tried to explain to them why, how revolutionary Bitcoin is, I've tried every analogy possible. It's essentially an internet within the internet. It's the new type of internet, if you will. It's digitalized money. It's whatever. They just can't grasp, because they're so ingrained in this idea that money should be controlled and generated by governments.
Exactly.
So I think we are going to see a period of time where people will not go out and buy Bitcoin directly from exchanges. They're going to go to their local bank that will revamp their branding or maybe they'll still keep the same name but offer it as a service. And it'll be the bank that will buy their Bitcoin for them, and it'll be the bank that will hold that reserve, which is dangerous, really. But I just have to admit it. I think there's a certain percentage of the population that will not indulge themselves enough to learn about how to purchase a Bitcoin, how to secure a wallet, and how to transfer Bitcoin into that wallet. They just want to go to the bank and know they've got 20 Bitcoins in there, earning them 0.5%, like banks typically pay probably, on their Bitcoin, and being able to spend it on a debit card without having to think about it.
My Ethereum gives you that, Sahih Ahmed. So much the end has these services where you can earn like rates on the actual Ethereum itself, and you can compound it, and also like you can also get additional returns and capital on it, especially from the investment side of it. Like as you said, the problem you're having now, and I agree with your point, Ahmed, is it's already happening.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
Who do we all bank with here? RBS, Barclays, let's say those guys, Chase Bank with that, JP Morgan or whoever, what have you. They've already started doing it. They're doing sell-side research on it.
They've
We'll
got
make
to.
sure they're investing in it already.
They've got to, yeah. They've got to.
Exactly. انت في النهايه حطي قروشك في السيفنجز بتاعتك دي بيشيلوها هم بيستثمروا بها. So definitely someone's going towards this Bitcoin. هم definitely بيستفيدوا. لكن the issue now you're having is, as you said, it's a generational thing, education through time. Maybe one day people get married in Sudan and start asking for Bitcoins instead of, like we're not there yet still. But like,
we have to accept that there's just going to be a generation that will not get it on the level that some of us here understand it, or will not utilize it on the same level as in, again, the simplest idea is transferring between wallets. For a lot of people, that would scare them, because if you send it to the wrong wallet, it's lost unless that person gets it.
Exactly. That's a problem, Bitcoin.
That's what the blockchain protects you.
We'll provide you with insurance. I mean, Coinbase is kind of doing that. I think up to £100,000 it's insured as on their, if you store it on their vaults, or their digital vaults, if you will. So a lot of people are too afraid of that idea, and they still want somebody centralized to manage their money for them. But like you said, it's generational. I say this in the most respectful way possible, but that part of the generation, 10, 20, 50 years from now, they're not going to be part of that economy. Okay. And the newer people that are coming into it are going to be more tech savvy. I think the newer generations coming forward are going to be more aware and more able to program from an earlier age as well. So again, tapping into something like Bitcoin and the blockchain is not going to be far-fetched for them. It'll be like sending an email today. It's funny when you watch YouTube videos about people talking about the internet in the late 90s and how they laughed and joked about what's an email, what's an @sign, what do I need that for? This is where we are at right now with Bitcoin, despite the price being what it is. Like, we're that early at this point. And like I said, we just have to accept certain populations or certain parts of the population will not get it on that level. They need to look like a normal bank.
Yeah. Correct?
Sorry, say that again?
We're at the inflection point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think we're at a crucial point where it's just starting to become very mainstream. Everyone now, you can walk down the street these days and ask somebody, what's a Bitcoin, and most people will be able to say to you, oh yeah, it's that funny money thing, or it's that digital money that I heard about. Ask that question 5 years ago, not even 10 years ago. The majority of people you ask probably wouldn't know what Bitcoin is. Skip forward another 5 years or another 10 years. People are going to be able to give you more intricate answers, depending on, again, the age that you asked that question at. So, Yeah, I think adoption is going to come in stages with Bitcoin. I think primarily there's going to be a middle ground where banks will control and hold Bitcoin for people. But going further and further into the future, people will manage their own vaults. People will manage their own Bitcoin, and I don't really know what the future for banks is really in that economy.
I think there's going to be a settlement layer. I've thought about this for a while now, and I think they're going to be like, what we're going to do is central banks will communicate through each other through Bitcoin, so it becomes a store of value. And now they want to transfer, 20 million, 30 million, billions of dollars between countries.
Yeah.
If the dollar is still the world reserve currency, they do that via Bitcoin. Because
they already have started. في واحد he transferred like a few billion.
Yeah.
And with the Bitcoin, you know how much it cost him?
Yeah. I
read $14.
Yeah.
ولا حاجة.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was about 600 million. Yeah.
Right, guys, this was a very useful chat. I think we should have more of them. I think for the next time we might have a more detailed agenda. This was kind of an experiment just to see if there's interest. It seems like there is. We have to share this within our communities, get more people involved, get more people financially aware or educated in and around cryptocurrencies.
Absolutely.
حسام it's important بالنسبه للكريبتو كرنسي كسودانيين احنا بنشوف الكريبتو كرنسي ده حيمشي كيف في السودان and this is an important thing لانه اصلا عارف كيف الفاينانس في السودان الايكونومي بتاع السودان عامل شنو ف look at Venezuela for example, they use Dash. Now Dash is the main coin for them يعني صح ولا غلط؟ يعني they start using the cryptocurrency as a support to their economy. Where if you look at السودان حاليا احنا الايكونومي بتاعهم داون يجيك يقولوا لنا ادينا جناح من اي ادينا جناح من التربيه. انا I personally think the way forward للايكونومي بتاع السودان عشان يتصلح is actually to adopt some of the cryptocurrency projects. والحاجه دي بدات تحصل حاليا حسب كاردان الكونتراكت مع
اثيوبيا
واحده من الافريكان countries.
اثيوبيا
I personally think انه الحاجه دي it's gonna change the whole economics في السودان. انا ما عندي انا economy background كده عم بيقول لنا what are strategies to follow the Venezuela what countries and they actually adopted the blockchain technology في currency level.
I think it's very possible, and I think people in Sudan as well can facilitate that happen because the central bank has like the capability. Like in the مشكلة نادر إنه أنا I've spoken to people who worked with Bank of Khartoum or worked at Bank of Sudan قال لنا our systems are very fragile. قال إحنا جبنا hacker he hacked it in like 5 minutes. فهم ذاتهم they need to revamp it completely. And then from there, people also have to adopt this mentality that cash is trash. And then maybe find a way, as you said, maybe to start using like using cards to like maybe just like contactless like pay things. And then that way, like things would be a lot easier as well. Yeah, and you'll be able to have like the digital banking be a bit more developed to facilitate that. And also, Tunisia has to be written off because we can't really be going to visit our families or driving around Sudan. And like مثلا فكينا 100 استرليني and we're sitting there with like 50 million and you're walking around, it's peak. You don't want to be holding cash. That's security. It's a very high risk. And it will create a high level of crime. But I think it's very feasible. I just think now Sudan is in that transition phase where they need to decide who the next government's going to be and allow things to facilitate and move forward. Like it all depends on like their willingness to adopt it. As you said, here as Ahmed said, عمو and خالته, that generation that. Imagine that amplified 60 million عموز and خالته saying لا 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 ده شنو الكلام ده وبتاع. be very, very difficult and a very, very big obstacle to be able to overcome and a big barrier.
افتكر اكبر barrier في اللحظه دي is probably the issue of, I mean, no exchanges accepting Sudanese pounds, you know.
Exactly.
آخر مرة I checked في السودان, you can't take your money out in dollars, right? You have to take it out in Sudanese pounds, or you have to transact in Sudanese pounds. So that's another big issue as well, is how to onboard people into exchanges in the first place, with currency that people won't actually accept for Bitcoin.
Yeah, so every time you go to Sudan, there's a new currency. غير العملة, how big it, you know, like Bambi or something. It's
Exactly.
really,
I think that's the first issue they've got to deal with, is people have to be able to access their money or translate their money across into dollars or into euros so they can actually put it into an exchange. Or maybe they fix the problem with the economy and the Sudanese pound isn't such a trash currency.
Exactly.
Some of these exchanges are willing to accept it.
They have to weed out the black market. You have to make it consistent. What's the point of having a central bank rate?
Well, you know what?
I don't think it's illegal. I don't think the Sudanese government have actually come out and said you can't buy Bitcoin. As far as I know, maybe you can correct me. It's not been made illegal, but like I said, it's just nobody wants Sudanese pounds for Bitcoin.
But you know what, guys? Just to wrap up, that may be a really interesting episode. The next one we can talk about crypto applications in Sudan, and you guys can have a think about how you can apply it if suddenly you were part of that transitional government and you were in charge of crypto adoption, how you would implement it. And we can have that conversation.
I'll start it off now in advance. The first application that Sudan could do the best with right now, especially up to the election, is voting on the blockchain.
Yeah, there you go. That
is probably the first thing they need to do, because then you can't cheat the vote.
Exactly.
And most people do have smartphones in Sudan these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a good. We can discuss that. Yeah. So I think we'll organize something else. But it's been really great having all of you in the very first inaugural episode of Wanasat Crypto. So,
been a lot of fun, actually. It's cool.
Yeah, looking forward to far more conversations. Thank you all, and have a lovely night.
Thanks for the invite, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you. You guys.